Hi, this is Deborah and welcome to the Gutsy Granny. And I am very excited that Katrina Needham is here with me today. And Katrina is actually another one of my amazingly good friends that I'm being blessed to have as part of my life. And Katrina's expertise is in I would call it a healing modality called core energetics.
That's right, yeah.
And from my personal experience, I was going to see a therapist when she's a friend, and I didn't want to use her as a as a therapist. I thought that's not ethical. And then the next thing I know that I have an issue I need to deal with, and I go, Katrina, I know about core energetics, but how did you study to be a core energetics therapist? That was the question I asked you, remember?
That was the question you asked me, and I told you.
Oh, no, come on.
I replied that core energetics is a rigorous program. Actually, in the US, it's a postgraduate degree for which you have to have done medicine beforehand. But here in Bali, we're lucky enough to have an Australian teacher who will take us from different disciplines. So my background is actually in accounting and law. So I have multiple degrees, just not in medicine. And more recently, since I've been in Bali, I've been doing lots of other healing modalities, such as theta healing and NLP. But core energetics really spoke to me. And it's been now 4 years of rigorous training in traditional psychotherapy, as well as the body-based body reading, energy reading, and those kinds of things, as well as then the spiritual element, which kind of pulls it all together, and that is what gives it its edge over a lot of other traditional psychotherapy style of modalities. Even with the body work, the spiritual part is the icing on the cake, I think.
So when I asked her that question, what training have you had? Because I wanted proof. I said,
yes, like 4 years of
exactly
blood, sweat, and tears.
There's so many flaky healers here in Bali that it's like I really didn't want a flaky healer.
Yeah.
And when she said
one week of training and you've got your certificate, and
exactly. So I went, oh, okay. Well then, why don't you do a session with me? And she went, sure. So we set up boundaries, and it was a transaction.
Yeah. Well, I think because it was a special case where you were having a healing crisis, and there was no one available. I stepped in.
And it was blowout. It was probably the strongest healing experience that I've had, where we got to the core of a particular trauma through all the different modalities that Katrina uses. And I felt this extraordinary release. So why I want to share this is because people really don't know about core energetics. It's still quite a new modality.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's a very it's been on the outskirts of traditional psychotherapy for quite some time. And in fact, one of the founding fathers of the psychotherapy portion of it was actually jailed by the medical community for his radical ideas.
Where? What country?
In the US.
In the US? What?
William Reich. This was in the 50s.
No, in the 50s. Because I've had so much traditional cognitive psychotherapy, as I don't mean to divulge secrets, as you have. I mean, many of us
have all been there.
Yes, we don't have the best of parents, and we haven't had the greatest of sexual experiences.
The best healers are those who've been wounded. And I find, that there's actually a beautiful saying which talks about the alchemy of healing, which is turning something not good into gold. This is
so you're my alchemist.
Yes, how you use your wounds to heal.
Yeah,
that's a big part of my philosophy, for sure.
Well, I think what I'd like to help you to get you to explain to our people, our family, our new family here on this crazy Instagram, Facebook world that we live in, is that, as I said, cognitive therapy, talking about all the shit that happened in my life, mum, dad, all that sort of stuff, all it did was perpetuate the pain.
Yes.
Then, I've tried hypnotherapy, I've tried art therapy, I've tried, what are some of the other ones I've tried?
every kind of therapy.
Yeah, as have you.
We've all been there and done that, yes.
And then the thing with the core energetics that I found was amazing, that I want you to explain in more detail, is that you use the body. It gets into the body. So we know the body can't lie. And the brain can. I mean, the brain can tell us, or the mind can tell us all sorts of stories that we want to, and that we know that that is 80, 90% not true. Our memories aren't that accurate.
No, and you know, that's one of NLP's big.
So you're NLP therapy as well.
Yes.
And theta.
Yes.
And
core energetics.
And core energetics. And
a bunch of other things.
Okay.
That aren't relevant.
But you've meshed them all in on top of the core.
On top of everything, it all comes together. So NLP talks about the unreliability of your memories in your brain, and the fact that you filter, and we all have a different filter, and everybody perceives things differently. So rather than dealing with your memories in your mind, we're dealing with the body's memories and how it retains energy. So when I was working with you, for example, we didn't really go very much into the story at all.
No, we didn't.
There's not necessary to know or understand the story to work with the body. It can help certain people. It is useful for them to use. You know, if their mind is a important technique for them, then you know this is a resource that we'll use. So the mind can be a great resource, and it can be useful to use it. But it's also possible to just completely bypass your actual story or memory, and not to re-traumatize someone by having to go through it again verbally. So what you're doing is releasing the energy that was trapped at the time of the trauma.
So what you're saying is that, because I'm just going to summarize, the brain will remember a story, but the body...
in the way it perceives it.
Yes. But the body holds the trauma.
It holds the actual energy that was suppressed at the time. So if you look at the word emotion, it's energy in motion, right? And so trauma is when you have experienced something that's caused you to stop an emotion from completing itself in its natural way. And so you've held onto it. You know, that freeze response is something that, you know,
which turns into disease,
and that is what is held in the body. So this is the energy that we're looking to release. And so by getting the body grounded, getting it moving, and then tapping into the body's own resources, we can move what needs to be moved, what is coming up for you at the time.
I mean, apart from the fact that I've experienced it personally, I was also part of a core energetics workshop, and it was amazing to see the sort of stuff that was coming out of people, and that it was almost, you know, as one of our friends said, an exorcism of
It's a very individual process. I mean, everybody experiences it differently because their traumas are different, and where they're holding their energy, what they're holding, how they're holding it, all of those things will speak to what kind of techniques are necessary and what we'll do with them.
So if you don't necessarily talk, I mean, if a large part of the core energetics protocol is not about talking, explain the physical stuff that you do, because it is a very physical modality.
Very much, and sometimes it doesn't take very much for it to work, and sometimes it's this big explosive thing.
But what you
really
use
varies. So what I would do with anybody in any session at any time is first get them grounded. And what I mean by that is not the light sort of thing that most people would imagine, but this would be an hour-long episode. For example, in a workshop, we would work with a group of people, and you go through a series of exercises that are specifically designed to get your energy moving, to disrupt your traditional neurological pathways, to get you to have the energy. Traditionally, most of us have upwardly displaced energy. And so what we're trying to do is get that energy down into the pelvis particularly, which is somewhere where, you know, a lot of us hold a lot of trauma, and down into the legs. And this is where we often have trouble holding energy. So we will do a lot of stamping and dancing. It's a lot of fun.
Wiggling our hips.
Music is involved.
Music.
And I'll talk a bit more about music maybe later, but you know, at this point we're just trying to get you into your body and feeling your own feelings. And so it's a series of movements designed to get the energy in the places where it isn't normally. And so we go up through the legs, through the hips, into the upper arms, the body, the jaw, where we hold a lot of tension in here, the neck.
Which we just did in the garden, which was really lovely.
Yeah. So we did a very
very light
small, light version.
But I did feel better, I've got to say.
But it worked. You got some vibration.
Yeah.
Liana got some vibration. So this movement that we're looking for after grounding is your life force. It's your energy going through your body, and it's what will help regulate your nervous system and allow you to cope with life and what it throws at you.
And then you use some quite dramatic forms of releasing the body with sound.
Yep. So we use some vocalizations, which are specifically designed for each of the character structures.
Yeah, some of those are really cool. I really like. What was the one I liked?
Stay away.
Stay away.
Stay away, I think.
Stay away.
It could also have been give it to me.
Give it to me. Yes, that's what was some of the other ones?
No.
Oh, I like that one.
No.
No. No.
No.
No.
No.
No. No.
No. Yes, and you know, it's fun.
It is fun.
It's what you are doing, and some people find it very challenging though.
Yeah.
And we try to make it lighthearted to allow people to access this, because what you're doing is expressing your lower self. We're accessing the bits of you that you traditionally hide from other people, the bits that you don't like, that you don't want to talk about. So we're bringing out those emotions early on in the beginning, to allow them later on to just get moved and expressed, and then we reintegrate back in with our higher level selves.
So you're talking about the movement is concentrated. I don't want to use the word chakras because people might get whatever.
It varies depending on the person and where their energy is stuck, where their blockages are, these kinds of things. So everybody experiences a grounding session differently. And you can do one for a large group of people, but they'll all get something different out of it. And each of those expressions, different people will identify more with one than another, or a couple of them.
So if we're moving up the body, and you're saying you start by the grounding.
Yes, you start with your legs and you move your way up in terms of grounding, but what you're actually trying to do is get your energy down. So that's why it's a specific series of exercises.
Yeah.
So it's not just dancing around and having fun. I mean, we make it fun, and we get everybody laughing, and everybody's involved, and they're having a good time. But the actual exercises are scientifically studied and designed for a specific output.
You wouldn't have studied 4 years to do a dance class.
No.
It's not a dance class.
It's not Zumba.
Okay, so then when you go into the hardcore stuff, when the trauma is starting to...
Yeah, so once you've got somebody, energetically charged, and you've contained that energy, and you've got it moving, their life force is flowing, then you can look at exactly what it is that then needs to be worked with. So until you have somebody grounded, you don't know quite what's going to come up.
But then you've got these other techniques that can be quite violent. There could be screaming,
so once
there
you
can
get
be
into
hitting.
a process, and so you're grounded, you're ready to go, and we've identified what the issue is that's coming up now that the body is ripe and ready. There are multiple ways of working with it. Some of them are quite expressive.
Yeah, that's a good word,
some of them
expressive.
Are quite aggressive. Aggression means to push forward. So what you're trying to do is get this out. And so there's a lot of vocalization, otherwise known as yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
And aggression, which was in a lot of the ways we hit with things that make a lot of noise, that get a lot of anger out. We use a lot of interesting language.
Yeah.
And
there's also a lot of touch
And the therapist is very much involved with the client. I mean, they're always in close proximity, if not actually touching them. There's a lot of body work involved where you find specific parts of the body where energy is trapped, and you help them access that to get that out. It can be a very smooth, very beautiful, tranquil process, or it could be a very loud, explosive, aggressive process, and it really varies day by day, week by week with the person.
So if we're looking at all the different modalities, and as you said, you've studied so many different, you've got the NLP, you've got your core energetics, you've got your theta healing. What's the end result? Like, I know we want to be happy, and we don't want to be dwelling in the past.
No.
So where do you
see? This is what a lot of cognitive therapy is about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So where do you see us evolving as humans with the ability to have these incredible tools like core energetics?
Well, my passion is to increase people's capacity for love. That's what I want for everybody.
We're not talking about sexual love, we're talking about unconditional love to oneself and
love of oneself, love of others, love of the planet, just to increase people's capacity for love. And this then allows you neurologically, your nervous system is expanded to cope with a greater range of emotions. And so that's where we're leading people to. And then the spiritual element is having them connect with their own center and that which is larger than them. And so that's the beauty of it. And for me, I do all this work, I do all the study, I do all the practice, I have the supervision, it's a rigorous modality, but at the end of the day, when it all comes down to it, it's not me that's doing the healing. I'm holding space for you to heal yourself, and I'm the conduit for the healing to come through me. And that's how I view it. It's not about me or my ego or me wanting to help you or heal you or whatever. It's you heal yourself, and I'm there as the vehicle.
Let's role play that somebody's got a trauma. They've had abuse in their life, let's say, maybe a physical abuse. They come and see you, you identify the problem, and sometimes, as I've seen, it's not what you think it is.
Often, yes.
Yeah. So then you go through this process with them. How long, sort of when you've got a cold, you get over a cold. But the problem with mental health is that, are we ever cured? Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes. The tyranny of therapy.
Yeah.
Do I just keep coming back? For core energetics, I find that people evolve, and they're constantly evolving, and you're expanding your capacity, and every time you do another process or you do some more work, you find that you've increased your ability to do so many things, and so much changes that it's not something you want to stop. But some people get to a level and go, this is it, this is where I wanted to be, I'm very happy here, thank you very much. And other people are continually on a exploration journey of self-improvement.
So if one was to, I think there isn't anybody on the planet that doesn't want to be the best version of themselves. And, we've got Buddha saying that man's raison d'etre is to suffer, right? And then you've got other beliefs and newer age philosophies that are saying, no, we're not meant to suffer. And we're not meant to carry the burden and the guilt of our pain of our parents, and that we want to discover who we are as individuals, and then be the best versions of ourselves. How does something like core energetics help us to get to that level without necessarily having to see a therapist every week?
Yes, it's definitely not a weekly therapy kind of program. But John Periakos, the founder of core energetics, his aim for everybody was to find their life purpose.
Nah, that's what it is.
That was what the reason he uses the word core in the title is because he wants to get to the core of your being, so that you can be the best version of yourself. But what you're wanting to do is discover your life purpose, and then that gives you a reason for everything.
Life's purpose is a very, very, very big topic.
It's a big topic, yeah.
And we're not talking about becoming a doctor, a dentist, or a lawyer here.
No.
Or even a mother or a father.
No, it's about achieving what you want out of your life.
But how do we know that?
Well, this is why you need to get in touch with your own emotions, be in touch with your body, and be following what it is that your body is telling you, rather than listening to the words of the mind. And that will lead you in the right direction.
So if we use you as an example, you started off as an accountant when you were 19, 20.
Yep, I did.
You've lived in 6 different countries?
9.
Sorry. You've lived in 9 different countries: Guam, Hong Kong, Australia, UK, Tokyo,
Singapore, Tokyo,
Bali,
London.
Yeah.
Bali, yeah.
So you've had this extraordinarily, amazingly diverse life. You've had a very long-term marriage, a beautiful daughter. And then this sort of discovery happened from a crisis, which is generally the case.
Yeah. That is almost always
so
the
if you
case.
look at yourself now and 5 years ago, would you say? 6 years ago?
Yeah. But between 7 and 8 would be the longest.
What would be the most exponential growth that you can see as a woman in your mid-50s? Mid or early?
Early to mid.
We like that. Early to mid-50s.
I'm 54.
Okay, well, definitely early, definitely early. What would you say has been the greatest gift that you've got from all these incredible modalities that you've learned? I mean, how is it to be Katrina Needham today?
Today versus
the Katrina Needham 6 or 7 years ago, whatever. Yeah.
I would say it is my ability to cope with life and what it throws at me. That I'm centered, I'm grounded, I'm happy, and I'm just so much nicer to be around.
And I can second that. And you are the most extraordinary manifester. I've watched you be at the rock bottom, and you just don't falter. You don't seem to get scared. You don't blame. You take full responsibility, and you just surrender. And I've watched you, and that's why I've got you on this program, because I know what you do is working.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is for sure, and I feel it in every aspect of my life. Absolutely. I now have an amazing partner.
You do.
And
incredible friends.
Looking forward to the rest of my life with him. Incredible friends, a wonderful life, the freedom to travel, and even in this very challenging 12 months, I've been all over the world.
You have.
I don't take no for an answer. I keep pushing, I will find a way.
And I've got to say, Katrina, the amount of times that I've called you up and I've gone, oh, Katrina, help
me.
And you've been able to just give me again, this spot on advice that isn't fixing me, that isn't telling me I'm bad, that's just those little nuggets that just go, yes.
Empowering advice.
Empowering advice. And I've got to say, you are one of my amazingly precious, precious friends.
Oh,
thank you for being part of my growth in learning how to find what my life's purpose is. Because you've been part of it.
It's been a wonderful journey with you.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Thank you so much. The Gutsy Granny and me, Deborah, being Deborah, was so happy to have Katrina on the program today, and I hope you get an awful lot out of her wisdom. And of course, please contact me if you want to know how to contact her and do some core energetics work. Mwah!
Bye.